Welcome to Swords and Hammers, where truth comes clothed in tales, and the soul remembers what the mind forgets. The world is loud, but for these few minutes, it can wait. Settle in, and listen well. The Butler's Liberation, a tale of two freedoms. In the grand house of Lord Fullerton, there lived two servants, who considered themselves remarkably free men. The first was Jennings, the head footman, who prided himself on his independence of mind. The second was Reeves, the butler, who appeared to be the most bound man in all of England. Jennings, you see, had discovered philosophy, not the deep sort that transforms the soul, but the shallow sort that inflates the head. He could quote the great thinkers at length, could discourse brilliantly on the nature of liberty, and considered himself intellectually superior to the household he served. "I am here by choice," he would say, polishing the silver with visible disdain. "My mind soars free, while my hands perform these menial tasks. I am no man's slave." Each morning, Jennings would arrive precisely 1 minute late, a small rebellion he savoured like stolen chocolate. He would perform his duties with technical precision, but withhold his heart, keeping it locked in a private vault where he stored his resentments like vintage wines, aging them to perfection. Reeves, by contrast, seemed to have no life beyond his service. He rose before dawn to ensure his master's day would unfold seamlessly. He studied Lord Fullerton's preferences with the devotion of a scholar studying sacred texts. He knew the precise temperature his lordship preferred his morning tea, the exact angle at which the newspaper should be folded, the particular way the curtains should admit the morning light. Where Jennings saw chains, Reeves saw choreography. Where Jennings felt diminished, Reeves felt enlarged. The other servants thought him mad, this butler who hummed while ironing, who genuinely grieved when the master had a headache, who treated the polishing of doorknobs as if it were an art form worthy of the National Gallery. One evening, Lord Fullerton summoned both men to his study. The master sat in his leather chair, looking unusually grave, holding a telegram that trembled slightly in his aged hands. "Gentlemen," he began, then paused. "I find myself in considerable difficulty. My nephew, heir to everything I possess, has gotten himself into what we might delicately call a scandal. The family name, our reputation, 2 centuries of honor, all hang by a thread." Jennings stood at perfect attention, his face a mask of professional concern, hiding private satisfaction. Here was proof of the corruption of the upper classes, the chains that gold forges around the soul. He was already composing the story he would tell in the servants' hall, with suitable embellishments. "The situation," Lord Fullerton continued, "requires someone to travel to London immediately, to deliver certain documents and speak certain words to particular persons. The mission is, I confess, dangerous. There are powerful men who would prefer these documents never arrive. Whoever goes risks their reputation, perhaps their liberty, possibly their life." His lordship looked at them both. "I cannot command this. I can only ask. Will either of you go?" Jennings felt the familiar surge of rebellion. Why should he risk himself for the follies of his supposed betters? He was a free man, was he not? He had read Rousseau. He knew his rights. "My lord," he said with impeccable correctness, "I regret that my duties here prevent such an absence." But even as he spoke, he felt, paradoxically, the weight of invisible chains. His refusal, which should have felt like freedom, felt strangely like bondage. He was free to say no, certainly, but having said it, he felt smaller, as if his soul had shrunk a size. Reeves stepped forward without hesitation. "When shall I leave, my lord?" "Reeves, you understand the danger." "I understand, my lord, that you have need. That is sufficient." Jennings watched, bewildered, as genuine tears appeared in Lord Fullerton's eyes. "Reeves, my dear fellow, I have never properly seen you until this moment." The butler smiled. Not the practiced smile of service, but something deeper, richer. "My lord, I have belonged to this house for 30 years. Its honor is my honor. Its trials are my trials. I am not doing you a favor. I am simply being what I have always been, yours." That night, as Reeves prepared for his dangerous journey, Jennings approached him in the butler's pantry. "You're a fool, Reeves. You could have refused. You're a free man." Reeves paused in packing his small travel bag. "Are you free, Jennings?" "Of course I am. I choose to be here. I could leave whenever I wish." "And yet you stay, despising every moment. Tell me, which of us is more bound? The man who loves his bonds, or the man who rattles them constantly, yet never breaks them?" Jennings felt heat rise in his face. "You speak in riddles. Then let me speak plainly. You think freedom is the absence of obligation. I have learned it is the presence of love. You guard your heart like a miser guards gold, thinking this makes you rich. But what good is a heart that serves only itself? It becomes a prison where you are both jailer and prisoner." "Fancy words," Jennings scoffed, "but you're still risking your life for an aristocrat's folly." Reeves fastened his travel bag with careful precision. 3 years ago, when my daughter lay dying of fever, Lord Fullerton sat by her bedside for 3 nights. He, a peer of the realm, held the basin while she was sick. He read to her from her favorite stories. When she passed, he wept at her funeral like a father. Tell me, Jennings, what is the price of such love? What chains could be stronger than gratitude? And yet, what freedom could be greater than choosing to serve one who has loved you so? Jennings had no answer. Reeves departed before dawn. The journey to London was indeed perilous. Twice he was followed. Once he was confronted by dangerous men in a dark alley. But here the story takes a curious turn. Reeves found, in his moment of greatest danger, a strange lightness of spirit. Standing in that alley, outnumbered and apparently doomed, he laughed. Not the laugh of hysteria, but of genuine mirth. "Gentlemen," he said to his would-be assailants, "I am the butler of Lord Fullerton. I have spent 30 years learning to navigate the treacherous waters of household politics, to balance the feuds of under-housemaids, to placate temperamental cooks. Do you really think you frighten me?" Something in his complete absence of fear unnerved them. One cannot threaten a man who has already given his life away. They let him pass. The documents were delivered. The nephew was saved. The family honor preserved. When Reeves returned, Lord Fullerton tried to reward him with gold. Reeves politely declined. "My lord, you cannot pay me for being myself." But it was Jennings who was most changed by the affair. He had watched Reeves depart on his dangerous mission with the lightness of a man going on holiday. He had seen him return with the quiet satisfaction of duty fulfilled. Most disturbing of all, he had noticed something he had never observed before. Reeves was happy, genuinely deeply, radiantly happy. Jennings began to observe the butler more carefully. He noticed how Reeves sang while working, not the forced cheerfulness of pretense, but the natural overflow of contentment. He saw how the other servants came to Reeves with their troubles, and how they left comforted. He observed how even the cat sought out Reeves's company, purring in his presence. Slowly, painfully, like a man learning to walk after a long illness, Jennings began to experiment with actual service. Not the mechanical performing of duties while his heart remained aloof, but the revolutionary act of meaning it. He began to care whether Lord Fullerton's tea was precisely the right temperature. He started to take pride in the gleam of perfectly polished silver. The chains he had fought so long began to feel different. Lighter somehow, as if they were made not of iron, but of silk. One day, Lord Fullerton called Jennings to his study. "Jennings, I've noticed a change in you these past months." "Have you, my lord?" "You seem, how shall I put it, more present, as if you've finally arrived, though you've been here for years." Jennings found himself speaking truth. "My lord, I believe I have been a prisoner who thought himself free. I am only now learning what freedom means." Lord Fullerton smiled. "Ah, you've been studying under Reeves." "In a manner of speaking, my lord. The finest university in England, I'd say. That man understands something most of us miss, that we are all servants of something. The only question is whether we serve what enslaves us or what liberates us." From that day forward, Jennings began to understand what Reeves had known all along. Freedom was not the absence of service, but the presence of love. The man who serves only himself is bound by the narrowness of his own heart. But the man who gives himself wholly to something greater, paradoxically, finds his heart enlarged to infinite proportions. Years later, when Jennings had become a butler himself, he would tell the younger servants, "I once knew a man who was so free that he could choose his own chains. And having chosen them, he found they were not chains at all, but wings." Selah.